What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journos, Comics, and Pop Culture, and we have another top 10 video countdown. This time around, we have the top 10 Avengers keys to invest in right now. And of course, this is going to be the first video in a two-part video series. Today, we're going to be counting down the first 5 books, numbers 10 through 6. All right, before we get into the video, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take the time to do so. And of course, as always, check out all the awesome links below, including how you can become a Patreon member of the channel or even a YouTube member of the channel by clicking that join button. Also, check out my link to my official Journos Comics merchandise. You can rock some sick gear and help support the channel. And lastly, if you aren't subscribed to our Comic Book Canon YouTube yet, please find the link, click that, and give us a sub over there. We have live shows every Friday night. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at 5 books today. We're going to look at current fair market value. We're going to look at fair market value from 5 years ago. And then we're going to look at plus, minus in growth, gain, or loss, right? And the order of these books from top to bottom, from 10 to 1, are those that have the higher gain on the market, that have increased the most in value, are going to be lower on the list. Sound good? All right, let's get into the first book on the list. Coming in at number 10. This is Avengers number 267. All right, let's talk about this book a little bit and why I put it on the list. This is the first appearance of the Council of Cross-Time Kings. All right, I won't get too into it. I'm not one of those that talks about these spec books and then I, give spoilers if you haven't read the books yet or whatnot. But the bottom line is this. We know the King is coming into the MCU, and what goes on in this story arc right here can definitely be something that comes into play, especially with everything that the MCU is doing right now with time travel. Of course, this is related heavily to the Loki show. So keep that in mind. Now let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value, sitting at $111. All right, there was only a couple on the census. 5 years ago, I couldn't find any sales for a 9.8. Average raw, $5. This is a very, very affordable book. And most might not look at this as obviously a huge key, but we know what the MCU can do to books. Look at West Coast Avengers, number 45, and what that's done with White Vision showing up. If we see the Council of Cross-Time Kings show up, which also has to do with multiversal dimensions, right? If we see that happen, expect for the demand of this book to come up. So again, I'm going to state this before we move further on with any other books. I'm not here to tell you to buy these books, all right? I'm not here to force your hand at anything you do when it comes to making purchases. If you have love for the book, if you love the characters, or if you're willing to take the risk of an investment, then go ahead and do what you do. I'm here to bring facts, data, and my own personal opinions. And you all probably know when I do these top 10s, I'm just not looking at the same, hot books that everyone else is talking about. What's the fun in that? I want to bring to you some affordable books that are what I call sleeper keys, that are under the radar, that look, if you can find this book for $5 to $10, there's not much risk involved. You're not putting much money out, and there could be a good chance of this book increasing if we ever see the Cross-Time Kings show up in the MCU. And like I said, we know Kang's coming, and once that happens, I think anything Kang is going to gain a little, is going to gain a little bit of momentum, all right? All right, let's move on to number 9. We got some 12-cent goodness. This is Avengers number 45. All right. This is the first book where Hercules joins the Avengers. Now, you can see that there's a percentage in the red down there, okay? We're going to talk about this. Let's look at these numbers. Now, for this, I did CGC 9.4s, all right? Current CGC 9.4 fair market value, sitting at $144. 5 years ago, $162. So what's the plus minus on that? That's an 11% loss. Average raw, $25. Now, before I go into the loss and why this book is on the list, let me break down average raw like I always do. Average raw is based on the average of all raw sales, no matter the grade. So this is not a number that's specific to grade, but I always like to say you could probably find a copy of this book out there in some grade for around the $25 mark. This is a 12-cent Silver Age book, so most likely it's going to be probably lower mid-grade copies. So keep that in mind. But okay, why do I have a book that has seemed to have lost value over the last 5 years on this list? Why? What's a good saying in investing, in finance? Buy the dip. Any investors out there, buy the dip. Look, we know for the most part that Silver Age books and your legacy character runs like a run like the Avengers, they're going to continue to increase over that long term, right? Even if they're not a huge key. But when you got a book right here, it doesn't have necessarily first appearance, but Hercules joining the Avengers, and it's on a dip, there is good possibility that this book will rebound, and that's outside of MCU spec. But why is this book on the list furthermore? Because we have an announcement of Russell Crowe playing Zeus in the Thor Love and Thunder film, and if Zeus is showing up, it's just a matter of time before we get Hercules, in my humble opinion. So, I know I'm not talking about Hercules' first appearance here, or even some of his earlier appearances. This is a good book, though, that if we see Hercules in an Avengers film, this book can definitely increase in demand for sure. And look, again, it's a Silver Age book that's decently affordable. If you could find this book in a nice mid-grade copy for $25, that's definitely a solid buy. All right, we are going to move on to number 8. And this is Avengers number 10, the first appearance of Immortus. All right. Also, this is the first appearance of Hercules, but is a minion of Immortus, and it was later retconned that this was not the true Hercules. It was an imposter. But hey, there's some more Hercules spec around this book as well. But the big key factor of this book, obviously, being the first appearance of Immortus. Before I talk about the book, let's get into the numbers. Current CGC, 9.4. Again, looking at those 9.4 fair market values, $1,560. A decently high book, but it's an early Silver Age Avengers book. 2016 fair market value in that 9.4, $800. That's a 95% increase in value. Super solid. Average raw sitting at around $80. So again, maybe you could find a mid-grade, lower mid-grade for that price. I totally bombed trying to pick up this book about 6 months ago. And because what had happened was, I think it was around the time we got a first glimpse at Loki, or the first trailer, and I knew the timekeepers and TVA was involved, and I said, okay, if that stuff's involved, Immortus is going to be involved. And we also recently had the Kang announcement, and again, not to give spoilers, but Kang, Immortus, a lot of interlocking there without saying too much. So I saw this book on Facebook Marketplace. It was a nice mid-grade, and I think I'm pretty sure it was around $60 something, and I didn't go for it, and I'm shooting myself in the foot. But now, again, I actually gave you a bit of why this book is on the list right there, because of all those things that happened with the Loki show, knowing Kang is showing up. I truly believe that we're going to get some incarnation of Immortus, most likely before we see Kang, at least some type of mention. I really don't know. Obviously, I'm just speculating myself, but I think Immortus is going to play a role into the MCU. Now, we also know that Immortus ties into some of the things that have been going on with Wanda, Scarlet Witch. So that's all I'll say about that there. A lot of spec going on with this book already. So I definitely see this book continuing to increase in value, even if we don't get a official announcement of Immortus showing up in the MCU. Moving on to number 7, it is another 12-cent Silver Age Avengers book. This is Avengers number 53. This is the first X-Men crossover in an Avengers title. All right, big shout out to Azores Tiger. We recently had Azores as a guest co-host on the Comic Book Canon show a couple weeks ago, and he showed this book off in our Fresh from the Comic Shop segment. I had to put this book on the list because I think it's inevitable that the X-Men are going to cross over with the some type of Avengers team, right? In the MCU at some point. I think this is definitely going to be like way later down the road, but you never know. But let's look at the numbers on this book. Current CGC 9.4 fair market value, $394. 5 years ago, $180. That's more than double. That's a 119% increase. Solid. Average raw book, $66. Again, you're looking at a 12-cent Silver Age. Some type of mid-grade, maybe, lower mid-grade. White cover, probably hard to get this book in a nice white cover unless you want to pay that top dollar for some of those high grades that are out there. Again, just a really awesome team up and crossover that I think over time, and again, I say this about these books, regardless of the MCU, you got two iconic teams, Silver Age book, it's going to have that long-term gain. But if we see some type of mashup, hey, this book can absolutely gain demand. So, all right, we got one more book today, and that's number 6. I can't wait to do the second part of this video as well for you all. But coming in number 6 today is The New Avengers, number 7, first appearance of Illuminati. Okay. This book caught fire sometime last year in 2020, like fall of 2020, sometime around then. We talked about it on the Comic Book Canon for a couple of different weeks when it hit the top 10. There was some rumor that, Disney and Marvel Studios were thinking about bringing Illuminati and maybe Disney Plus, maybe in the movie somewhere. Now, those were just rumors, okay? There is no even hint coming from the studios themselves, the executives themselves, anybody involved, that Illuminati is going to be a thing. But I still put this book on this list for 2 reasons. One, because it's kind of cooled off a little bit since the hype, almost a year ago. And it's still really affordable. And we're going to look at the numbers. And I do think that the Illuminati playing a role in the MCU would be absolutely amazing. And that's just my humble opinion. But I absolutely think that it would be a good story arc that can play in the background for many phases of future MCU films. Let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value, $185. Still very, very affordable. 5 years ago, $67. Actually, this wasn't even 5 years ago. I could only go back to 2019. So that goes to show you how it's, definitely peaked. I'm sure, those rumors kind of helped that peak. But again, over the last few months, it's kind of stagnated a bit. But still, over the last 2 years, it is increased in value 176%. But get this, you can still find probably a raw book around that $15 mark, average raw, $15. So, being a more modern book, you're probably looking at a decent grade, maybe anywhere from the fine to fine, very fine, around that $15 mark maybe. Again, if you can find a decent high grade of this book for $20, I think that's absolutely a worthy investment in my humble opinion. Okay. I actually bought this book a little over about a year ago, I think, and it was damaged in the mail. I think I paid $8 for it. I knew it had some defects. It was probably fine to very fine, maybe around the 6.0, maybe a 6.5 already, but it was damaged in the mail, and I received it at probably no better than a 3.0. It was really bad. I did a video on it, I think, or I showed it off on Comic Book Canon. I talked to the seller. It was this nice lady on the Mercari app, and she actually refunded me and let me keep the book, and I felt bad because I was willing to still pay. I think, like I said, I only paid $8. I was like, well, can you reimburse me maybe half of what I paid? But she was like, just keep it. I was like, oh man, I feel so bad. But that's my story of this book. But look, a lot of potential for this book for sure, and it's very, very affordable still. So that's why I put it on my list. All right, everyone, I cannot wait to to discuss the top 5 with you all. Let me know what you thought of the books today, which ones that you have, or if you thought there should be any other books on this list. Maybe they're going to show up in 5 through 1. But before I go, as always, I got to give a big shout out to all my members of the channel. First and foremost to my Patreon members, supporting me month after month, allowing me to continue to do this channel as a full-time job, 7 days a week. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. We're going to have another Patreon giveaway at the end of this month, May, first week of June, because of all your guys' amazing support. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel via Patreon for only $3.99 a month, that link is below. You can check out the website and see what kind of extra perks you all do get. So big shout out. I'm going to name you all off. Shelby, Asher, World's Enemy, Timothy, Ramseyverse Comics, Kenneth, Rich, Tony, Marty, Larry, Serge, Michelle, Jacob, Tyler, Keith, Jeremy, Michael, Jeff, Tricky Clicky, Phillyborn, Alvin, Fletch, Joshua, Pedro, Peter T, Joe G, Larissa, Sagi, Dan Beechner, and Simon. Boy, that's becoming a mouthful, which just goes to show, again, I appreciate you all. If I keep getting more patrons, it's going to be harder to name you all off. I'm going to be sounding like an auctioneer here in a minute. All right, that's not it. I still got to give a big shout out to my YouTube channel members. Again, all the support that you guys give me month after month. This is only $1.99 a month membership, so if you guys are interested in doing that, hit that join button below. You get extra perks via this membership as well. I will be doing a YouTube member giveaway contest in a couple weeks here, sometime early June. So look out for that if you're a member. And again, every dime that I get from these memberships goes back into my channel in some form or fashion. So big shout out. Kevin, Davey, Locksmith Comics, Primetime Treasure Hunter, Dom, X11 Bravo, Rick Curtis, Michael, Jimmy G, Jimmy Garoppolo supports the channel. That's a joke for all you football fans. Goonish Lurker, Josh Z, Louis Logics, Arthur, Comic Toby, Charlie, Luis, Peter, Blackout Comics, B-Moy, Tony T, and Chris. Thank you all so much. All right, everyone. Be on the lookout for that next part 2 video, 5 through 1. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit the notification bell so you know when that next video pops up on your feed. Thank you all for watching. Drop some comments below. Be well, and until next time.